on the topic of being a generalist versus being a specialist, we have to look at things as they are now. So I was on a panel a couple of weeks ago in my last trip to San Francisco. I shared the panels with some very clever people working in some of the top companies in the AI space. And the moderator was very, very good at asking the right questions. And one of the questions was whether today is better to be a generalist or to be a specialist. And I answer the question very directly and say, you have to be, you have no excuse with the amount of AI tools, with the amount of software, and the amount of things out there that allows you to be more productive to not be. And that applies to about 95% of people in the tech space or maybe any other industries. You are in a special time in history where you can be both a generalist and a specialist. Let me use myself as an example. I studied software engineering in university for my undergrad. Now, in the first year, we tend to have the way the university works is we had everyone that was doing any computer science related topic or course in the same rooms. So if you were doing networking or computer hardware or software engineering, you were all learning the same things in the first year. Then after your first year, you all started to specialize in whatever area or discipline you're going to. For me, that was software engineering. And that's how the education system, I think, is structured, where it makes you become a specialist within a certain field or within a certain domain, which has worked for some folks. But today, we're in an era where information is so accessible and the ability to digest information is is improved. So one thing I find today, I would say to most people in the tech space, the question is not should I be a generalist or should I be a specialist? But the way you should approach it is this. When I went into the workforce after I did my master's, I focused on computer vision and deep learning. So my master's was in computer vision, machine learning, and space robotics. And out of those three part of my master's, I chose to specialize in computer vision and focused on it because I understood it. So I specialize in understanding computer vision, deep learning techniques, things like pose estimation, face detection. And I worked as a computer vision engineer in a startup. And that allowed me to then start to teach online. I wrote online about a lot of computer vision techniques and deep learning techniques. That was my specialty. But on the other side of the coin, at the same time, I was learning more about a general machine learning space. So I was looking at other machine learning related topics like natural language processing. I was looking at data science related topics. So in my 9 to 5, I was doing that specialization, which was in computer vision and deep learning. But outside of my 9 to 5, you would see me writing a lot of pieces on data science. I was doing data science project. I was doing some more natural language projects, and I was actually taking on some gigs that were more focused on the maybe image capture inside of the world. But the thing is this, I was specializing and generalizing at the same time because I took the time out to understand my field from a high level and then got the skills to be able to go deep. And that's where we're at today. If we go back to the education sector, right, it was more like a T shape, right? You have this broad surface area at the top, then you were then told to specialize and then you drill down. So today, with the advancing AI tools, with the productivity gains we're getting from AI tools, you can actually take what you got from education and that specialty. But now what you can actually do is think of it as an elevator. You can now go up with a lot of the AI tools and actually then go broad and actually digest any information from any of these adjacent fields you have. So you don't have to just stay here and specialize. So 95% of you watching this video, you don't have to stick to your specialty. You have enough tools out there in the world today that will give you all the information of any associated or adjacent discipline related to your discipline. So if you're someone that is in finance and you're looking at risk, right? Risk compliance. And I guess an adjacent field that you can come up the elevator and look into using AI tools could be, I don't know, could be private equity, right? You could look at private equity, learn more about that industry in your free time, look at maybe what are the risk and compliance side of private equity. Or you can just go into maybe stocks and option trading, right? Because you understand risk, you can try to associate it there, build a bridge, but look, use AI tools to digest a lot of information. I think that's the unique part we're in. So for most people today, whether you're coming out of university or you're thinking of your next career step, you don't have to go into a specialization. You can be a generalist. You should be. I don't think we even have the option anymore because if you're not thinking of being a generalist at the same time having this specialty, which is like your superpower, you are competing with people who are generalists but have this superpower in whatever they choose to specialize on, but they're able to consume information at such a rapid pace to the point where it feels like they know about 80% of most topics, right? So, look, in this talk I did, the panel that I was on, we were talking about the future of software engineering. Over the last few years, my career has been focused on more of a marketing function and writing educational code. And I did more software engineering in my free time, not like I used to when I was a computer vision engineer or when I was a web developer. So what did I do? Well, what I did was I got a bunch of papers, I read a bunch of software engineering history, and I was able to get a bunch of these papers and articles and just put it into one of my tools called Open Speech that allows me to consolidate information and convert them into podcasts. And I was listening to the history of software engineering the morning before I went on the panel whilst ironing my trousers in the hotel room, right? And I was downloading that information in my brain. And it was useful because I have this specialized skill, but I also have this background knowledge of software engineering that I got from university. I write software every day, I write code every day. This allowed me to be able to apply it to other areas of fields that I'm associated to or things I'm involved in. So I was able to be able to talk about the general topic of software engineering, but then bring it down into agent memory, which is something I specialize in currently today. I work in a database company at this current moment, but I was able to just take the elevator up and make it more broad to give the audience a full high level perspective that related to them. And just, again, just take the elevator up, go broad, take it down, specialize. And that's the trick. Now, in tech, I said there were about 95% of people that need to be both generalists and specialists. There is one group of people that I think can actually just remain specialists. And if you're an AI researcher or you are in the research space within either looking at neural network architecture, such as large language models or maybe alternative models, well, you are in high demand for being a specialist. You are at the right place at the right time. These AI researchers are actually getting a lot of offers from frontier labs, right? So those are folks are specialists. I would advise them to stay specialists maybe for the next 2 to 5 years, right? Those are people within the AI research role. And I'm sure every industry has that sort of individual, that sort of role where you think these folks will probably have a form of a solid career for a very long time. And before AI, it almost used to feel like that, right? When I came out of my undergrad degree, I was a front end developer. Back then, you could just make the front end of a website and you were okay. That was a career. But very quickly, with the utilization of JavaScript in the back end, we had Node.js, Express.js. A lot of people became full stack developers, meaning they did the front end, the back end, and the database. So you combine this free role into one, then web development almost felt like a generalist role and rather than something that requires specialists. Then very quickly we had things like React Native and things like Meteor.js and Cordova come out at the time and actually meant that web development and mobile development, which used to be two distinct roles, we're now combined into one. So now you can get one person that has this general mindset or this general skill set on how to build a website, front end, back end, connected to a database, but at the same time, use the same technology to build an iOS or Android app. So web development and mobile development became more of a generalist practice. And being a specialist in those things, when generally that useful, maybe in some of the crucial, critical cases. But it's very hard now to see someone that's probably solely just a front end developer, right? So that's what happened. But we can see that being applied to other disciplines in other industry. So that's on the topic of being a generalist versus being a specialist. Use the tools that are out there today to help you digest information very quickly at a very quick pace that will make you seem almost superhuman, right? And then have this specialty that is your superpower that no one could compete with you on, right? For me, that's agent memory. So we were talking about agent memory. I can talk about it for hours. I do talk about it for hours. I teach 5-hour courses on agent memory. I've worked with the pioneers in AI education on agent memory. I've built tools on agent memory. So we can talk about that. I'm a specialist there. But that doesn't mean I can't talk about adjacent stuff, or I can't talk about any other aspect of agent engineering, or I can't talk about how do we structure partnerships with other AI companies. How do we create a GTM motion with our AI partners? Or how do we do things around marketing and scale some of our in-person events or do a workshop? No, it doesn't mean that. I'm a specialist. I can generalize to most marketing function or tactics that we have to execute. And that's where we are today. That's where the game is today. So be a generous and a specialist. All right, we'll end it there. And that's it on the topic of being a generalist versus specialist.